Tonight on TV47 Weekend Edition, On to the Point segment, we take the unemployment crisis in Kenya conversation further by seeking to find solutions to this pickle. Now that and much more coming your way shortly, but first, let's take a look at the highlights. President Ruto openly admits to having a sit-down with Azimio leader Raila Odinga to mixed reactions galore.
I have engaged our friends in the opposition, and we have agreed that as a nation, destruction of life, destruction of property, destruction of public property will not be in the equation.
Finance Act not in the clear yet as Busia Senator Okia Omtata heads to the Supreme Court. And unemployment takes center stage on this weekend's conversation On to the Point. Welcome to the broadcast. My name is Grace Kuria Kanja. My sign language interpreter tonight is Rhoda Nyamai. And remember, you can engage with us on social media on our Twitter handle at TV47 News, on Facebook, TV47 Kenya, and my personal handle on Twitter is at Grace Kuria KE. We're glad you could join us tonight. Once again, welcome. Now, President William Ruto has sensationally admitted having held talks with opposition leader Raila Odinga, speaking during his tour of Kwale County on talks that apparently happened at the coast. Now, this comes days after the government and the opposition agreed on the structures to hold talks. Let's get more from Moige William.
President William Ruto has admitted to having met the opposition Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga in Mombasa, with reports indicating the two quietly met on Friday evening in the presence of retired Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo. The president's revelation comes amid plans which are in top gear to have structured talks between the government and opposition through respective representatives.
I have engaged our friends in the opposition, and we have agreed that as a nation, all leaders, past, present, and future, that violence, destruction of life, destruction of property, destruction of public property will not be in the equation.
However, a relatively toned-down president maintained his led Kenya Kwanza government will not condone continued Azimio la Umoja-led protest, terming the protest as destructive to the country's economy.
We are a democratic nation, we can talk. Tumekubaliana kwa sababu unajua mimi ni kiongozi wa taifa, vile vile ni kiongozi wa serikali.
We welcome talks. We welcome non-violent ways of resolving conflicts. That we do.
Even so, President's revelation has drawn divided opinion even among his lieutenants, some of whom accompanied him on the coastal tour.
We may talk, we are allowed to talk, the President has every right to talk, but do not cheat Kenyans that we are in an international crisis.
Talk to anybody you wish, but keep the focus of your promise and covenant with the people of Kenya.
Several Kenya Kwanza allied leaders called on the president not to be present during any talks between the government and the opposition, but rather have representatives lead the talks, with the two sides already drafting top agendas to be discussed by the teams.
Mazungumzo haya ni ya kitu gani? Kama ni mazungumzo yatafanywa na kina Ichungwa na kina Gonzirai, lakini si William Samoei Ruto.
Rais, tunakuomba sasa yawe waziwazi. Paruanja!
Political pundits, however, have opined that any political arrangement between the president and the opposition will be unpopular if reached. Moige William, TV47.
Thank you, Moige William, for that. Moving on, and leaders from the Azimio la Umoja coalition have distanced themselves from a statement released by National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah on the upcoming dialogue between the two parties, set to be led by former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo. Now, according to Azimio, the statement by Ichung'wah is one-sided and does not represent their stand on the dialogue.
Hours after National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah released a statement stating that both parties have agreed to form a 10-member committee, with each having 5 representatives, Azimio leaders have come out to deny any part in the making of the statement, which they term as one-sided.
Yesterday, Kenya Kwanza released a one-sided statement signed by Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah that they claimed to incorporate our views. We disown the statement by Honorable Ichung'wah. Azimio had nothing to do with it. Its contents were those of Kenya Kwanza, their wish list.
According to Azimio, despite its commitment to the dialogue, their demands in issues such as high cost of living, electoral audit, and probe into police brutality still stand.
We want to see actions by the regime that will lead to the immediate lowering of cost of living. It is our position that this issue does not require any discussion, but policy or action by the Kenya Kwanza government. But since they won't do it, lowering the cost of living has to be part of the talks.
Azimio urging the Kenya Kwanza side to allow both parties to raise their issues freely without interference.
It is our position that no party to these negotiations can and should determine for the other party what to raise and what not to raise. We will respect Kenya Kwanza's right to bring all its issues to the table, and they must also respect ours.
The alleged joint statement by Ichung'wah was only signed by him, with Minority Leader Opiyo Wandai's signature evidently missing. Zainab Mohammed, T47.
And still on that story, the talks to be held between Azimio la Umoja coalition and Kenya Kwanza, of course the talks to be led by former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo. Let's get various reactions from different political leaders and church leaders.
Amidst upcoming talks between the government and the opposition, Azimio allied leaders have welcomed the move, but with conditions.
The Kenya Kwanza regime must withdraw those cases to create an enabling environment for dialogue to take place.
The leaders have called upon President William Ruto to compensate victims of police brutality during the anti-government protests as a measure of good faith to the talks.
The president should apologize to the families who are murdered by the police. The president should compensate those families. What I've seen is distressing. Some people are clapping. Some people are jeering. They are celebrating the death of our sons. What a shame.
The leaders have also called on religious leaders to be at the center of the mediation talks so as to ensure the talks do not stall.
Mimi sijapiga maandamano, lakini ningeomba sana, kwa sababu sasa upande wa serikali umeongea, upande wa huu mwingine umeongea, sasa ni wakati wa kanisa.
On their side, religious leaders have expressed their readiness in mediating the two parties so as to restore calm in the country.
Hakuna mtu anasema Raila ni mbaya ama Ruto ni mbaya. Hawa ni wetu na sote tutaka nchi yetu iende mbele. Tusifanye mambo ambayo yatafanya sisi tusiongee, tuzungumzeni. Hata dini zinasema tuzungumze. Tutapata suluhu.
After the failed attempts by Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan to lead the mediation talks between the two leaders, Azimio have now settled on Olusegun Obasanjo, the former Nigerian president, to lead the mediation process, which the Kenya Kwanza team has maintained that should be centered on the cost of living rather than political issues.
Sisi tunaomba Rais William Ruto, kama ni kikao ikue kwa TV, Wakenya wenye walimpigia kura wakiona, lakini si nyuma ya mlango mahali hatuoni.
Jackson Chacha, TV47.
Thank you, Jackson Chacher. And Busia Senator Okiya Omtata has filed an appeal at the Supreme Court challenging the ruling by the Court of Appeal against the conservatory orders by the High Court on the implementation of the Finance Act 2023. Now, this opens a new page in the course of the divisive act, with Omtata arguing that the Court of Appeal set a bad precedent in the country. Let's get more from George Maringa.
Come Sunday evening, Omtata on Twitter announced that he is heading to the Supreme Court against Friday's Court of Appeal ruling that lifted conservatory orders barring implementation of the Finance Act 2023. Omtata was not pleased by the Court of Appeal's ruling.
Court of Appeal gave what I would call a managerial but not a judicial decision. They're trying to manage things. Yeah. Instead of deciding what the law states.
He says that he has reason to head to the highest court in the land, key among them seeking to quash the appellate ruling.
We want to quash that decision. Okay. We want the Supreme Court to quash the Court of Appeal finding. I had a case on contempt against IPRA. After all the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal did, what happens to my application? It's like they were just under instruction by government.
The main petition that is before the High Court is yet to be heard and determined. Chief Justice Martha Koome had appointed a 3-judge bench to hear it. The judges are Justices David Majanja, Lawrence Mugambi and Christine Meoli.
Usually, the Court of Appeal has appellate jurisdiction. So what were they appealing? There was no decision of the High Court. The court had only said, hold on, let us look into this matter before you implement this thing. So how do you appeal that? Not just for our case, but for other cases which might come. This one can become a very, very dangerous precedent.
The legal battles continue. George Maringa, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you so much, George Maringa, for that report. Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has condemned violence meted on police officers during the recent anti-government violent protests called by the opposition that led to the death of an officer and others sustaining serious injuries, warning that the government would not condone any violence on those charged with the responsibility of protecting the lives and property of the Kenyan people. Our very own Chichi Josephine tells us more.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has condemned leaders and organizations enabling the targeting of security officers during the recent anti-government protests witnessed in the country.
I have heard human rights bodies condemning police. Our policemen were injured, others are in hospital. Not a single leader, not a single organization has stood to say that it is wrong to injure and hurt police officers. Kwani polisi ni watoto ya nani? Hata hao ni watoto ya mama.
The DP, however, warned that the government would not condone any violence on those charged with the responsibility of protecting the lives and property of Kenyan people.
If you come to the streets with stones to destroy property, to steal, to loot, to stone policemen, they'll deal with you accordingly. And I want to assure the National Police Service, as Deputy President and Principal Assistant to the President, carry on with the good job you are doing. You are protected and no harm will come to you.
He spoke this during his visit to the Alliance High School for the laying of the foundation stone for the chapel and fundraising for the centenary project, where he also welcomed talks anchored on the rule of law, stating that the government will remain alert should there be a threat on the country's security.
We have heard you are going to have talks, well and good. But since I have not seen a commitment that you denounce violence and give Kenyans undertaking that you not go back to the streets, those policemen will stay on standby for now.
Elsewhere, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki gave a stern warning to political leaders who he accuses of hiding behind democracy and the exercise of political rights to cause mayhem and anarchy.
Kuna watu wanajificha katika siasa kufanya uhalifu. Kama vile wengine wanajificha kwa dini, kuna wengine wamejificha kwa siasa kuharibu usalama wa taifa. Hao vile vile ni magaidi na tutapambana na hao kama vile tunapambana na wale magaidi wengine.
The CS noted that all talks or discussions in the country must be fixed on one important standard, that there should never be violent politics in the country, and that all political parties, whether pro or anti-government, must commit to peaceful politics.
Kama wamekiri dhambi zao na wameacha huo uovu, lazima waseme kwa sauti kubwa na hata watie sahihi mkataba ya kwamba hawatarudia kuchochea watoto wetu kwenda kuleta vurugu tena.
Chichi Josephine, TV47.
Thank you so much, Chichi Josephine, for that. Let's take a look at some business stories now. And the government says the tourism sector has shown immense resilience despite the impact that protests have had on the country's image. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi says tourism stakeholders should remain steadfast and not be cowed by the protests. Speaking during the official launch of Hotel Sapphire in Mombasa, the Prime Cabinet Secretary reaffirmed the government's commitment to support this sector, which accounts for 11% of the gross domestic product, to potentially absorb an extra 600,000 employees in the next 3 years.
In the midst of the challenges and in the midst of all these scarecrow tactics that we are seeing in the name of Mandamano and all sorts of games long after the elections, they have actually shown confidence and invested a lot of money in preparation of riding on the tourism market. Tourism is also the second largest forex earner for Kenya after tea. And there are prospects that tourism will grow at 5.2% by 2025.
Sisi hatutaki maandamano. We want people and visitors, because if we start demonstrating, visitors will not come and investments such as this will go to waste.
Now, Kenya and the Malaysian government are collaborating on upskilling graduates to fill the skill and market needs gap in the country. Student recruitment firms say students enrolling in accredited skills centers improve their employability and gain an edge above their peers, allowing for better opportunities not only locally but also abroad.
I myself am a beneficiary of Malaysian education, where many people from Kenya have been going to Malaysia to study. It's a top destination in terms of quality of education, and the most important thing is the value for money. The cost of studying in Malaysia in terms of tuition fee is very, very affordable, and the value is very, very high. So the cost of living is very affordable too. In terms of I study there, it's very, very cheap in Malaysia. Fuel is almost a third of what we're paying here in Kenya, so obviously everything else is very affordable. So it's a really good country to be able to achieve a top quality education.
We are coming here to bring the high quality of Malaysian education to the community of Kenya, so that students from here can pursue the study to Malaysia. As what being presented by our speakers just now, you have many advantages and benefits beside cost, and also the quality. You can also learn a lot of cultures, the thing that you might learn and gain something from Malaysia. And at the same time, nowadays I think it's nice to have a broader perspective of education. And of course in Kenya also you have a good quality, but again if you go beyond Kenya, I think you can bring back something beauty for the development of Kenya in the future.
From our record, Kenyan students shows that Kenyan love to come and study in the business and admin, computer science, and also engineering. I think these are the areas which is the favorite areas of the international students who come from Kenya.
Thank you, Hibak Said, for that compilation of business stories. And it's now time to get sporty, and the master of sports is with me in studio. So I'll hand you over to him for a few minutes, okay? Over to you, Dennis.
All right, thank you, Grace Kuria, for that introduction. Now, tonight we have a lot that's lined up for you in the world of sports. We shall be telling you how the national under-20 rugby team, Chipu, performed in the World Rugby Under-20 Championships. We shall also be telling you how FKF is partnering with FIFA to improve the state of football in schools. Those among many other sports stories that we've lined up for you and coming right up. A very warm welcome to Primetime Sports. My name is Dennis Otieno. Now let's start off with matters rugby. The national men's rugby under-20 team, Chipu, Sunday afternoon summed up their World Under-20 Rugby Championships campaign on a low note after falling to a 64-10 defeat at the hands of Zimbabwe in the fifth-placed playoff match of the competition at the Nyayo National Stadium. Zimbabwe dominated the match from the onset and took a 33-0 lead at halftime. However, Farhan Juma's